Chapter 6. Curling into a tighter ball, I remained as solid as I could manage against the back of the couch. My mind reeled with disastrous memories as I decided they might not find me if I simply didn't move. "Mender, relax. It was an accident," Twilight assured, still sitting on the cushion to my right. Instead of answering, I buried my muzzle further into the couch. "It was a disastrous accident, though." Fluttershy's hoof movements became almost hypnotic as she kneaded the muscles along my back. Giggling lightly, she worked another knot out. How had she convinced me to let her do this again? I winced as the memory reared its ugly head. The couch tipped, me being flung up the back of it. Fluttershy had been balancing on the top and gas as she went over backwards. There was no other choice. I released the tendrils from Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash and kicked off the couch with a light twist. I had next to no momentum and was far out of shape, but I managed to barely snag the flailing, panicking Pegasus and spin. My back gave another throb of protest and remembered the feeling of contact with the floor. The little yellow Pegasus also wasn't as light as I anticipated. Not as heavy as Pinkie, but she definitely didn't have hollow bones. The mare in question let out a timid coo as she worked another knot out, earning a groan of appreciation from my mouth. "Are you three done yet? You've missed a dozen spins already," Rainbow barked from somewhere behind me. Twilight shifted sharply. "Relax! We're just looking after Mender. We'll join in a bit," Twilight retorted sharply. I didn't have to see her to hear the irritation in her voice. "It's alright. This is quite a lot of fun," Princess Celestia assured. I couldn't blame Dash for being grouchy. The princess had trounced her attempts at mischief so far, and even got her once earlier. Apparently the Sun Princess was extremely empathetic and perceptive, able to hit upon just the right questions or dares to almost assure the target bowed out. From what I understood of the game, the target then had to do a universally assumed bad act, which changed every time some pony did so. Regardless, Celestia was unscathed, and Rainbow Dash already had drank a mixture of orange juice and milk and been forced to sample leftovers found at the back of Twilight's fridge. Needless to say, she was a little grouchy now. Regardless, I had already decided that playing the game would be bad for my health. "Oh, come on, Mender! I planned this just for you! You can really get to know us and have fun at the same time!" Pinkie pleaded. I sighed, enjoying the gentle massage from Fluttershy, alongside her newfound comfort level with me. Twilight was tucked pleasantly into my other side as well. Honestly, I could have easily fallen asleep right here. Twilight spoke up first, however, pointing out, "She has a point there. You can learn a lot about us. How about a few rounds, then we go back to this?" The nagging sensation returned. I was holding them back again. "You two can keep playing. Don't worry. I'm just tired and a bit sore," I excused weakly. I really needed to jump up the exercise regimen. Fluttershy timidly sat on the cushion to my right, a little ways away from me on the couch while uneasily watching the game. "I'd really rather stay here. Spin the Bottle Truth or Dares isn't exactly my favorite game," she muttered. "Oh, well, true." Twilight giggled, but nodded. "You two can stop after a couple rounds. Just try to relax and have some fun, Mender," she added with a light pat to my other side. "Yeah, don't be scared. Jeez, you can handle a little bump," Rainbow reminded. It wasn't so much the bump as Fluttershy landing on me. Plus, that look from Twilight when she saw me skid to a halt holding Fluttershy. Now I can't shake the feeling that they're both sticking close to me despite the other. That wasn't what I intended at all. Rarity sighed tiredly as she rested a hoof on the bottle in the center of its group. "Please, girls, Twilight and Fluttershy can share Mender easily enough. Can we please get back to the game?" she requested politely. Sweetie Belle snickered from the other side of her, but her eyes remained glued on the bottle. Appleboom sat next to her as well, looking towards me instead. Scootaloo seemed very much uninterested in the game and remained behind her two friends, staring at the ceiling. It was interesting to see all the element bearers together again. They all had their own lives, really. I'm not entirely sure what I was expecting. Fluttershy released a light burst of air to my left, startling me. A quick glance when she was no longer there, rotating on the cushion, I watched her gracefully land next to Rarity, who shifted over to make room. For a moment, the yellow Pegasus glanced backwards. Not at me, but Twilight instead. She smiled with just the corner of her mouth. Twilight frowned for a split second, hesitated, then returned the smile. The entire exchange took all of a second or so, and I'm pretty sure I missed something in the space of time it took me to look between the two of them. Twilight stepped down off the couch and sat down next to Fluttershy. Both scooted apart, however, then looked back to me. Seriously? I felt more than a little confused as I shakily stood and chambered off the couch. Why couldn't I just be given time to think? Careful on my left forehoof, I took the 3 steps to get to the group before popping down again. Woo! Hey, Mender! Are ready to start again, every pony? Pinkie wasted no time in asking. She sat off to my right, on the other side of Twilight. Oddly enough, Spike sat to her left and shifted closer to Twilight when she sat down. Was he playing too? I momentarily wondered why he wasn't sitting next to Rarity. A glance back in her direction reminded me that she was surrounded by the 3 cutie mark crusaders. That meant all 6 friends were playing, potentially Spike, myself, and even Princess Celestia directly across from me. Applejack nodded sharply and smirked. Darn tootin', I'm up next, she answered confidently. Before any pony could react, she flicked the bottle with her hoof while glaring playfully at Rainbow. The colorful Pegasus grinned back, and the tension between the two could almost be seen in the air. The bottle started to slow, and all focus shifted to that a moment later, minus Scootaloo, of course. I could have sworn I heard a light snoring come from her. Regardless, the bottle slid slowly past me and pointed at Fluttershy instead. The timid mare gasped and widened her eyes at the bottle. I would have let out a puff of air and shook her head. I was having been hoping for the multicolored maned mare instead. Well, shucks. Truth or dare, Fluttershy? She asked, shifting to a warm and friendly smile instead. Fluttershy still froze up. I was locked onto the bottle and started to shiver. Well, she muttered, visibly panicking. I realized suddenly why she didn't like the game. Smiling, I extended a hoof and rubbed the small of her back, right under the wing bases. She started momentarily before glancing over at me while frozen in place. Her uncertainty shifted to a timid smile, and I felt her muscles relax a little under my hoof. She nodded oddly to me before answering, truth, please. Applejack smiled at her and settled back down to the floor again. Alrighty then. Truth. How'd you know about the trouble going down 2 weeks ago, before Dash went to get you? It's been bothering me, she asked, seemingly out of nowhere. That wasn't like the questions already asked. The topic promptly fell out of my realm of knowledge. Fluttershy looked as surprised as I felt, so I at least decided that it was some bit of memory I just blanked on. Oh? When was that? She asked hesitantly a moment later. A nagging sensation drifted through my thoughts. Something was bothering her. Oh yeah! You met us halfway to your house and acted like you already knew something was wrong, Rainbow suddenly let out. Applejack gave her a questioning glance. Weren't you the one who told me in the first place? She reminded, raising an eyebrow. Dash sighed. A Pegasus like me has a lot on her mind. My memory slips sometimes, so what? She defended awkwardly. It was just a dream. A bad one. I dreamed of Mender being sick, Fluttershy almost whispered. I noticed once more that every pony suddenly went instinctively silent as soon as she started to speak. Twilight nodded and smiled. Probably apprehension from the previous day. It was probably conscious and Fluttershy's instinctive desire to check up on him again, Twilight reasoned, smiling pleasantly at the yellow Pegasus. Fluttershy looked less than convinced. I somewhat frowned. That was the day of the incident they were talking about. It didn't fit. If Fluttershy hadn't met them halfway, how had she known I was at the farm? I hadn't told any pony, and logically, it would have been closer to go to Rarity's. She would have known that I had left Twilight's library. Maybe she checked around for me after leaving Twilight's, but she didn't check the farm because I would have seen her. No pony except those who were there all along knew that I was there. She didn't seem to be the type to call of a search based on an assumption. So she probably didn't search. So how'd she know I was at the farm? It all suddenly snapped into place. Please wake up now, Mender. You need to wake up. suddenly echoed in my mind. My eyes widened and my mouth went dry as I stared at Fluttershy. It was her? She looked larger and sure and seemed to be intentionally looking away from me. But what did that mean? My mouth opened, but I curbed the thought before it exited. What was I supposed to say? Pointing out that her dream might have been some sort of psychic communication technique seemed like it would only get me laughed at. Still, she looked unsure of her attempts to assure her otherwise. Are you alright there, Fluttershy? I'm sorry about asking something so personal. Applejack suddenly apologized, startling me out of my personal monologue. She jumped a little as well, but shook her head. No, it's fine. I was just thinking about it again, she explained, shifting from her more timid voice to a tired-sounding one instead. Rarity smiled affectionately and encouraged. Why don't you spin and then rest a bit? You look a little listless. First I gave a half-hearted smile and tenderly spun the glass bottle again. It moved maybe 3 inches. Oh dear, she muttered quietly, looking momentarily intimidated by the bottle. You need to get at least 3 rotations, Fluttershy. The spinner again? Applejack encouraged warmly, still smiling. As disturbed as I was at the discovery, it was diffused a bit with the yellow mare's incredible levels of cuteness. She let out a weak whine and batted the bottle some more with her right hoof. Suddenly the bandage on my hoof slipped apart at the bottom, and my room contacted the wood floor. Feeling along the hard material was simple. I felt the bottle out with my mind and took note of the light impacts from her hoof. The kinetic magnifier was simple after that. The yellow Pinkies squeaked as her next hit rocketed the bottle into a tight corkscrew, and she rapidly retreated backwards, hiding partially behind me. Instinctively, I shifted my left foreleg out to cover more of the startled mare. Apparently, momentarily, the bottle had become scarier than I was. Whoa there! That was a darn good spin, Fluttershy, Applejack complimented, giving a proud nod and smirk. Twilight frowned as she watched the bottle carefully. I retreated out fully to further avoid suspicion. Really? Fluttershy asked carefully, picking her head out from over my foreleg. Rainbow Dash nodded instead. That was an awesome spin! The mare behind me blushed softly before smiling and looking less nervous. She shifted forward a bit to move back into place, but bumped my leg. In surprise, she froze and glanced at it before shifting her attention back to me. There was surprise in her eyes when they met mine. A moment of hesitation followed by a gentle smile from her later. I pulled my leg back up to me. I not meant for her to get scared. Slowly I returned her smile and gave an assuring nod. To my surprise, she didn't move forward even after my leg was no longer present. Instead, she slipped back into a sitting position, rooting to where she was instead. Well, Twilight did say that she only had to play for 1 turn. Mentally chuckling, I turned my attention back to where the bottle, which was finally slowing down. Everyone glued their attention back to the spinning bottle, of course. Eager eyes widened as it slowly rotated and pointed directly at the rainbow-maned mare herself. At first, Dash looked surprised. Then she smirked and glanced back up at Fluttershy expectantly. Totally going to Dare! What you got, Fluttershy? She asked cockily. Of course she'd pick Dare. Truth was really potentially dangerous, especially from Fluttershy, who knew her secret. Oh, I guess... Fluttershy started, and then frowned. She hadn't planned this out. Smirking, I leaned over and whispered suggestions of sky spelling to her. She gasped and blushed fiercely before looking at me in surprise. Oh, that would be bad, Bender, she muttered timidly. Rainbow glared at me instead. Hey, no giving her ideas, she warned almost as if she knew what I had suggested. Ooh, now I'm curious though, Pinkie exclaimed from the other side of Twilight. She swayed happily back and forth on her rump, seemingly unable to hold still for more than a few seconds at a time. Oh, me too, Sweetie Belle chimed in almost instantly. Twilight shook her head next to me. No, we must adhere to the rules. No suggestions from any pony else, she rejected, even though she was smirking widely. She must have heard my suggestion. I tried really hard not to laugh. Oh, I know. Dash, I did go bird watching with me tomorrow. Fluttershy suddenly spoke up. Wait, was that even allowed as a dare? Dash blinked and tilted her head, while Abadex started snickering. Are you sure that's allowed, hon? She asked between breaths. There's nothing saying the dare can't be delayed, Celestia sagely chimed in, smiling politely at Fluttershy, who seemed to relax at the ruler's words. Rainbow took the ruling as a cue, of course. Ha! No sweat, then! She exclaimed, sitting up fully and bounding her right foot off her chest. A second later she winced, and a loud rumble could be heard. She clutched both of her stomach and fell forward again, tucking up. Oh, dang. Feeling a little under the weather there, Dash? Applejack reminded mirthfully, smiling at the sick mare. Wow, their rivalry was indeed rather intense. Dash snorted and glared back up at her. Oh, shush! It feels like a swarm of parasites got loose in my stomach. I don't even know what those leftovers were, she complained, massaging her stomach with both hooves. Todd blushed slightly and coughed, looking away from the display. I snickered and lay down, careful to keep my left forehoof tucked under me and still in contact with the floor, just in case. Note to self, never eat Twilight's leftovers. Regardless, much to my amazement, Cyan and Rainbow Pegasus managed to extend her muzzle forward and whack the side of the bottle. It spun erratically, shifting from the center of our loose circle. Todd had to shift the back a little in order to not interfere with the spin. The bottle started to slow, and Rainbow sat up eagerly and watched as its rotation headed for me. Oh crap. She would doubtlessly want an retribution, and either truth or dare would prove disastrous. My magic flickered out and lessened the friction on the bottle. As anticipated, its speed drop lessened, and the nozzle slid past me, slowed for Fluttershy, and finally settled on Rarity. Ah, horse apples! You got off lucky, Mender, Dash warned, smirking at me. I gave a sheepish grin in return. Rarity smiled and then looked to Rainbow Dash. I do suppose I'll pick truth, then, she requested. Dash smirked, knowing that the white unicorn had nodded. That's fine. Something good, then. So, since the disastrous gala, have you seen anybody else you'd be interested in? Dash asked, eyes narrowing and grin predatory. Wait, that sounded more like gossip than anything. Why would Rainbow care? Oh, she was tailoring her questions and dares to try to get under pony skins. She really did play to win, didn't she? Rarity's eyes widened, but she remained in surprising control of her features, if she were truly nervous. Oh, well, why would you like to know? She asked carefully. To my surprise, the bottle pulsed with a natural-looking gray light. It was enchanted. Pinkies looked fully upright and pointed a hoof towards Rarity before accusing, Oh no, you're avoiding the question! The fashionista scoffed indignantly. Of course I'm not. I was simply curious, she excused. The bottle flared up with a vibrant red color almost instantly. Oh, it was a lie detector. She scowled a second later at the bottle, huffing. Nah, see? You really need to answer now, Apple Bloom added, nudging Rarity in the side. Ah, yes, well, Rarity muttered, looking flustered. Yeah, that was enough. My conscience couldn't take it anymore. Glancing over Twilight, I noticed she was giving me a rather brutal glare, so I figured she'd caught on by now. Yeah, there was nothing else for it. Actually, she doesn't have to answer because it's technically not her turn, I defended, looking back up at Rarity and Rainbow Dash. Beg pardon? Rarity asked, looking quite a bit surprised. Rainbow tilted her head towards me instead. I cheated. I manipulated the bottle so it wouldn't land on me, I explained, pulling my left hoof over the floor and showing the line of energy still connected to the floorboards. Rainbow Dash scowled and slammed her right hoof down. What? Then I want to turn against you instead, she declared, sounding more than a little irritated. Rarity exhaled and visibly seemed to deflate a bit, however. That made me happy. Applejack chuckled and shook her head as I looked down at the floor. Why'd you cheat? And why say anything about it? She asked, voice sounding curious. I didn't think it was fair for Rarity to be asked an uncomfortable question, so my conscience got the best of me. And as to why I did it at first, well, I was scared of what Rainbow would ask me or tell me to do, I spoke truthfully, as Dash smirked and rotated the bottle to point at me instead. As expected, it glowed a soft green color as she finished. Dash raised an eye at me, but rapidly shook her head. No avoiding it now. Truth or dare? She asked, slipping back into her amused expression. Interestingly enough, I saw Rarity mouth something, but being neither particularly gifted at lip reading nor adjusted to how ponies' lips move in the first place, I had no idea what she was saying. Regardless, it seemed that I had to pick my poison now. I weighed the options in my mind. Truth would be disastrous. I had a lot of hidden memories that I'd really rather stay hidden. Alienation and embarrassment were likely. Dare would probably get me injured and probably be humiliating given Rainbow's Dash's pattern so far. Still, that was mildly better. Well? The Rainbow Mare asked impatiently. I nodded and braced myself, answering with, "Dare." She giggled. "Quite a few secrets, eh? Alright, dare!" she exclaimed a few seconds later. I shifted uneasily as she thought for a moment before ordering, "You already smooched twice, so that wouldn't be as effective. So I dare you to kiss Fluttershy." The squeak behind me fired off before my mind even processed the dare. Turning, I glanced back at Fluttershy, who was now rapidly shifting away from me. Her eyes quivered timidly as she looked terrified. No, this wasn't how I planned for this evening to go. "Hold on a minute, Rainbow. We were not supposed to include any pony else in the dares, you know that," Applejack reminded. "Hey, he deserves the 4 rules because he cheated. It's only fair," Rainbow defended, glaring over at Applejack. Pinkie waved both hooves energetically. "But why Fluttershy? We shouldn't make her do that," she pointed out, motioning towards the yellow Pegasus and myself. That stung a bit, but I actually agreed. I sank a little bit regardless. Rarity huffed, however, defending me by pointing out, "Surely it's not a punishment to kiss. You two are being insensitive." Applejack sighed weakly. "Look, he has to do it no matter what, so just let Fluttershy decide. If she says no, then he has to do whatever the next thing it is that Pinkie has." Twilight slapped her forehead with a hoof and asked, "And how is that fair to Mender?" "It's not. He cheated, remember?" Rainbow growled. "I'm starting to think that he had good reason to," the purple unicorn muttered in return, rolling her eyes. I finally sighed. "We shouldn't fight. I'll do it as promised," I interrupted. Fighting over a reactional activity was rather stupid. She let out a shy squeak and shifted further behind me and away from sight. Wait, she was using me to hide from myself? Trying not to laugh at that thought and potential deeper meanings, I shifted so I could see her fully, ignoring the almost giddy squeak from what sounded to be Rainbow Dash. Fluttershy shrank under my gaze, shaking a little, but kept looking between Rainbow and me. I don't know. This is a little fast. I'm not like Twilight," and she started to whisper. It was difficult to hear above the party music and talking. "I told you, Pinkie made me," Twilight interrupted in a harsh tone. The old mare visibly winced while I mentally mimicked. "Twilight, that was insensitive as well. You should consider the effects of your words before speaking. And relax, Fluttershy. No pony's making you agree." I heard Rarity speak gently. I smiled as I listened. She certainly had good intentions anyway. Fluttershy looked less than certain. "But if I don't, he's going to have to," she started to explain. That right there was all I needed to hear. Her desire was the important thing. Smiling, I turned back to Rainbow and shook my head. "I refuse the dare, Rainbow," I interrupted, earning an extremely surprised expression. "Wait, what?" Rainbow asked, seemingly shifting from surprise to confusion. Rarity's smile grew larger, however. I had grown to surprised gasp behind me and looked over at Pinkie instead, inquiring, "What do I have to do now?" Her grin was massive, and she giggled gleefully. I swallowed, wondering if her reaction was from my going along with her desire to guard Fluttershy, or if I just requested my own death sentence. The excessively pink mare immediately dug into a bag I hadn't noticed nearby. She must have gotten all of the punishments herself. "This is my last one! That means I'll have to stop after this," she informed, voice muffled from her head being inside the bag. "Oh, that means Mender gets the honorary last turn after this. Tradition." Celestia surprised me by informing, "Wait, honorary last turn?" Rainbow immediately scoffed at the idea. "He cheated! We should just stop the game after this," she argued. Celestia simply smiled, however, gently revealing, "Twice, actually, but the first time was simply to help Fluttershy spin. He also came clean shortly after." Rainbow's rose-colored eyes softened a little, but I shook my head. "I still cheated," I reminded. "Here it is! My super-duper grand finale punishment!" Pinkie suddenly blurted out, causing me to jump. "A little warning next time." She pulled the glass bottle out of her bag with both hooves and set it down in front of herself. It was a pretty-looking silvery tint and was filled with a light purple liquid, probably lightened by the glass. A large cork rested in the bottleneck. It wasn't very big, maybe 8 ounces of liquid. "What is that?" Twilight asked suspiciously a moment later. Pinky giggled. "The punishment! Drink up," she ordered, giving the bottle a healthy slide in my direction. My eyes shot open and I barely managed to catch it before it bashed into Sweetie Belle's nose. "Are you sure that's safe?" the young filly asked, shifting back a little. "It's Pinkie Pie. She's not going to give up only something dangerous to drink, don't you worry," Applejack assured, giving a confident nod in her direction. I swallowed, but slipped the cork out of the bottle. A light, flowery smell wafted into the air. Well, that was unexpected. I thought it would smell terrible. Of course, that said nothing yet for its taste. I prepared my stomach for an internal violation. "How much?" I asked wearily, taking a couple more sniffs. The smell was disarming in nature. "All of it," Pinky cheerfully replied. Figures. Wincing again, I braced myself before bending down and snatching the top of the bottle in my mouth. Well, if it was anything like medicine, faster was better. I bit the bullet, or bottle in this case, and whipped my head back. My mouth was instantly flooded with a chalky, powdery syrup which threatened to overwhelm my tactile sense. I tried not to cough, but was surprised by the strawberry taste. Opening my eyes again, I took a tentative swallow and was greeted by a sweet taste flooding over my tongue and down my throat. This wasn't bad at all, which concerned me a little. This was supposed to be traumatizing. Did I have different taste buds than the average pony? Several seconds passed as I drank down the rest of the liquid. It was actually kind of delicious. After I set the bottle down, I noticed that all eyes seemed to be locked on me. I gave a sheepish shrug and informed, "It was actually kind of tasty." "What? Oh, I was sure it was going to be something horrible," Pinky groaned, looking a tad disappointed. Well, comparatively, for Pinkie Pie. "That's what the point. Then what's the point of it being a punishment?" Scoodle finally spoke up, apparently having started paying attention when I wasn't looking. A tingling sensation suddenly went through my stomach, and I felt a burst of gas go up my esophagus. In the most degrading way possible, I let out a rather large belch. To my surprise, it was accompanied by a blast of purple and pink smoke directly from the pits of my stomach. Uh-oh, I somehow doubted that was a healthy omen for me. Twilight looked on in surprise, widened eyes following the moderate cloud of smoke as it hit the ceiling. "What in the hay is that stuff?" Applejack asked suspiciously, watching it slowly disperse on the ceiling. Twilight's eyes narrowed, however. "Where did you get that liquid, Pinky?" she inquired, shifting her gaze back down to me. The tinglings in my stomach continued, rapidly becoming a dull ache. It felt like my insides were expanding rapidly, and I winced. Pinky didn't miss a beat nor lose her smile. "Oh, I got it this morning from Zecora," she explained simply. "Who?" Twilight uttered a low groan, however. "Oh, Pinky, that was a potion you just gave him. Did she give you any instructions?" she asked, a hint of irritation in her voice. A light bulb seemed to come on in Pinky's head. She dug into her bag for a few more seconds before pulling out a piece of paper with her mouth, and while fluid in motion, she spewed it towards Twilight. It stretched through the air, a long tail of iridescent colors oozing along before Twilight caught it with her magic. Things quieted, except for my suffering stomach. Twilight read the note over carefully with all 3 eyes, frowning the entire time. My head swam with colors as I tried to shake it off as best I could. Potion? What was that again? A look at that did something magical, yeah. "Pinky! This is concentrated! Zecora said to mix it with water or juice at 3-to-1 ratio. This is an 8-ounce bottle, so that means..." Twilight muttered, falling into calculation towards the end. "Is that bad?" Fluttershy asked quietly, looking a little gray. Wait, that wasn't right. Things bled together as I turned my head and a wave of dizziness came over me. What was the potion's effect? I heard Princess Celestia warn, "You might need medical attention. Potions can be very bad for you if you overdose." Uh-oh. This potion was supposed to make 32 ounces. You only need 3 to get the full effect. You gave him enough for almost 11 ponies, Tide interrupted, groaning. Prismatic and monotone hues were starting to mix as a rush of bile flooded up my throat. I gagged, not expecting the sensation. "Oopsies," Pinky spoke up, swallowing quietly. Her voice hit a nerve that caused tingles to dance up and down my spine. I couldn't stop myself anymore. The rush came up my throat and I promptly threw up all over the hardwood floor. Scootaloo burst into laughter almost instantly while Sweetie Belle voiced an "Ew!" Part of me had to agree with her. The mixture pooled in a congealed manner, consisting of a purple and blue frothing slime. Of course, the colors might not have been accurate because the wooden floor was only pink and green. Oh dear. Well, that should make him feel a little better anyway, I heard Celestia mutter. My eyes remained fixed on the floor between my feet, however. The room was still spinning wildly. Rainbow Dash groaned wearily. Is that all it does? I really think that's enough punishment, she admitted uneasily a moment later. The course note says it's a mild hallucinogenic, but also that it has a bonus effect that punishes those that lie. To add further to her emphasis scared me a little. Zakora really don't like ponies who lie, I have a feeling, Applebloom deduced. It was a bit difficult to me to think, but it sounded like she spoke of prior experiences with the aforementioned individual. My eyes widened as the pool of liquid in front of me started to bubble and churn. That was weird. What would cause that? My vision shifted and dripped as the pool took shape, slowly bubbling and rising upright. Oh, sweet, merciful goodness. The shape of a frog rapidly formed out of the ooze. It had to be a frog? It blinked twice in an extremely slow fashion. I idly wondered how alive it was. Not that it felt like moving, much to find out. I was suddenly aware of how tired I truly felt. It was as if I had really had any time to myself for weeks. My very soul, if I truly had one of whatever type, felt downright exhausted. Maybe I was being melodramatic, but the lethargy was there regardless. I was vaguely aware of a talking going on around me, but it was echoing in something really far away. Wait, where was I again? There was something important. The frog stood up slowly and grinned ear to ear at me. It felt familiar. Maybe I'd seen it in a book somewhere. It didn't seem all that menacing, but then it opened its mouth to talk. Hello! I'm an alien from another dimension, it informed, bowing politely. Oh, okay. That made more sense than it being a living puddle of puke. I welcomed it to our library as humbly as I could, which is to say rather informally, as it wasn't actually my library. Still, I should at least try to make my guests comfortable. Jolly good. Did you know that I have a rather conflicting admiration for two mares? One thinks I'm a pet animal, though, and the other is only interested in me because I'm an oddity, I'm worried. The frog informed. No, I indeed hadn't known that, although talking vomit frog was indeed an oddity. It was strange, but I almost thought that the little grey guy might have been asking for advice. I sat down on a nearby mushroom and shook my head at him. I tried to explain that he needed to trust in what they tell him, otherwise the friendship might be compromised. He looked disheartened still, however, adding, It's also confusing because I've never felt this way before. Plus, my instincts make me focus on more, intimate details. I'm new to this dimension, and I don't even know how I'm going to support myself without leeching off these wonderful ponies. To his credit, he did look a mess. Maybe frogs weren't so bad after all? I tried to assure him that the ponies were indeed nice and wouldn't mind helping a kind fellow out until he could get on his feet. Flippers? I had no idea what frog anatomy was labeled as. The colored light on my mushroom shifted and shimmered in the moonlight. It was pretty, really. He sat up on his lily pad, drifting to and fro with the ripples. It's a bad situation. Plus, I kissed one already. Sure, it was an accident, but that didn't stop me from really liking it, he added after a moment's thought. He pulled a pipe out of the water and took a few nervous puffs, swung a large cloud of bubbles into the air. I tried to convince him that it was a good thing. He really did need to calm down a bit. I can't stay calm. She's cute. No, she's gorgeous. Plus, the other makes me feel so warm and safe. It doesn't help that Rainbow Dash entrusted me with the true identity of her secret crush either. I wanted to confess, but it really does serve as a reminder. I can just tell that he tried to explain. Unfortunately, my world veered sideways as the earth shook. The piercing scream sounded like hell itself, tore through the heavens above, instantly giving me a headache. When I woke up again, the frog was gone. Oh. Wait. Everything was gone.